The glass doors of the luxury car dealership glimmered under the morning sun as Maya stepped inside, her heels clicking against the spotless marble floor. She had worked hard for this moment, a successful entrepreneur finally ready to buy the car of her dreams. But before she could even finish her sentence, a salesman glanced at her clothes, then at her skin, and smirked. Within minutes, she was asked to leave. The other customers watched silently as Maya stood there, humiliated, her voice shaking as she asked, "Did I do something wrong?" The manager simply replied, "This place isn't for everyone." Maya walked out with tears in her eyes, clutching her purse tighter. What they didn't know was that she wasn't just another walk-in customer. She was someone whose story was far bigger than the shiny showroom they tried to shut her out of. That night, she made a few phone calls, the kind that could change lives overnight by the next morning. The dealership's doors didn't open to the usual laughter and luxury. Instead, silence filled the space as confused employees gathered outside, reading the notice on the door. Every staff member had been dismissed. The once proud dealership now stood empty, with only questions left hanging in the air. Who was Maya, really? And what kind of power did she hold that could bring down an entire business overnight? The truth behind her calm smile was only just beginning to unfold. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat by her window, looking out at the city lights, replaying the scene over and over in her mind. The dealership employees' cold stares, the laughter she heard behind her back, the sting of being judged before she could even speak, it all cut deep. But Maya had built her life on moments like these. She knew what it felt like to be underestimated, and she had learned how to turn that pain into quiet power. Years ago, Maya had started her own automotive design company, one that focused on eco-friendly luxury vehicles. Her brand had recently signed a major deal with one of the biggest international car manufacturers. What no one at that dealership knew was that the company they worked for was now under her new partnership contract. In other words, she had the influence to change everything with one phone call. While the staff slept peacefully that night, Maya's lawyers and business partners were already drafting new terms, ones that demanded accountability and respect across all dealerships under their network. Her decision wasn't about revenge. It was about setting a standard. She wanted every person who walked into those doors, no matter their color, status, or appearance, to be treated with dignity. By dawn, social media was buzzing with photos of the closed dealership and rumors about what had happened. People began asking, "Who is this woman?" And for the first time, Maya wasn't afraid to let them find out. By the next afternoon, the story had spread far beyond the city. News outlets picked it up, calling it the luxury dealership scandal. Customers began sharing their own stories online, people who had been ignored, talked down to, or turned away from the same place. The company's corporate office tried to control the damage, but screenshots, videos, and eyewitness accounts flooded social media faster than they could delete them. Everyone wanted to know who the mysterious woman behind it all was. Inside her apartment, Maya watched quietly. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages from reporters and business executives. But instead of celebrating, she felt uneasy. She never wanted this to become about revenge or fame. All she wanted was fairness. Still, deep down, she knew this moment carried more weight than she had imagined. At the dealership's headquarters, the regional director, Thomas, sat in a tense meeting with his team. He had just learned the truth: Maya wasn't only their new business partner. She was also on the board of investors overseeing the company's expansion plan. Her influence could decide who stayed and who left. As panic spread among executives, Thomas tried to figure out how to fix things before corporate took drastic action. Meanwhile, one of the fired employees, a young salesman named Eric, felt torn. He had been there the day Maya was humiliated but hadn't spoken up. Now, guilt was eating at him. He decided to find her, hoping to make things right. But Maya's next move was already in motion. Days later, the city buzzed with curiosity as cameras lined up outside the closed dealership. Rumors said the company's top executives were flying in for an emergency meeting. Inside a nearby hotel conference room, tension filled the air. The brand's regional leaders sat stiffly around a long table, their faces pale as Maya walked in, calm, confident, and collected. Every whisper stopped the moment she entered. They hadn't expected the same woman they once dismissed to be sitting across from them with the power to decide their fate. Thomas cleared his throat, trying to start the meeting, but his voice shook. "Ms. Johnson, we're deeply sorry for what happened. It was never our intention to." She cut him off gently, her tone steady but firm. "Intentions don't erase behavior. Respect isn't a policy, it's a choice." The room went silent. Outside, Eric waited nervously in the lobby, holding a small envelope. He had spent days tracking her down, hoping to apologize in person. But as he listened to muffled voices behind the door, he realized the situation was much bigger than he thought. Meanwhile, news networks broadcasted live updates, calling the meeting a turning point for corporate accountability. Investors were watching, and the entire automotive world held its breath. Maya glanced at the company's logo projected on the wall, and then at the people who once made her feel small. Her next words would determine everything: the company's future, her reputation, and perhaps even her peace. And then, she stood. As Maya stood before the board, the tension was so thick it felt like the air had stopped moving. She opened her folder, ready to speak. when one of the executives suddenly interrupted. "Before we go further," he said, his tone defensive, "you should know that we've already contacted your business partners. They're reconsidering your position after the publicity." The room shifted. A few eyes darted away, others smirked as if power had just swung back to their side. For a moment, Maya said nothing. Her calm expression didn't break, but deep down her heart raced. She hadn't expected them to move this quickly, or this ruthlessly. Her company's future and reputation were now on the line. The people she trusted were being influenced by the same corporation that had humiliated her. Thomas leaned forward, sensing her silence as weakness. "We can make all this go away," he said smoothly. "All you have to do is walk away from the contract and the press." It was a quiet threat disguised as a deal. Cameras outside the room were already rolling, and word was spreading that negotiations had taken a sharp turn. Meanwhile, Eric, still waiting in the lobby, overheard part of the conversation through the open door. His stomach dropped. He realized they weren't just trying to silence Maya, they were trying to destroy everything she had built. He reached for his phone, hesitating for a second before recording what he heard. He knew it was risky, but this time, he refused to stay quiet. Maya took a slow breath, her eyes moving across the table as the executives waited for her to break. Instead, she smiled quietly, knowingly. "You think you can threaten me with what's already mine?" she said softly, placing a document on the table. The company's legal counsel leaned forward, his face draining of color as he read. It was an updated contract signed just that morning, transferring full operational control of the dealership network to Maya's firm. The partners hadn't turned on Hearth, they had doubled down. Siding with her after learning the truth from the recordings her team had received overnight, Thomas blinked, realizing too late what had happened. Maya continued, her voice steady. "This isn't about pride, it's about people. Every person you dismissed, every customer you disrespected, they built the world you thought you owned." The room fell silent. Cameras outside caught the moment when she walked out, her head high, as reporters rushed forward shouting her name. Then, just as she reached the lobby, Eric approached her with the phone still recording. "I have something you need to see," he said, his voice trembling. He played the clip the executives plotting to leak false information about her company. Maya's face hardened. That footage, combined with her new contract, would expose everything. By evening, the story went viral. The same dealership that once pushed her out had become the face of its own downfall. But the real twist came later when Maya quietly announced her next move, buying the entire luxury brand itself. In the days that followed, Maya's story became a symbol of quiet strength and accountability. News outlets around the world covered how a black woman once turned away from a luxury car dealership ended up owning the entire brand. But for Maya, it was never about revenge, it was about change. She reopened the dealership under a new name, hiring a diverse team and creating programs that trained young people in business, design, and customer service. The same space that once rejected her now stood as a place of opportunity. When Eric visited her after the reopening, he was surprised to find her waiting with a smile. Instead of resentment, she thanked him for his courage. "You didn't stay silent," she said. "That's what made the difference." He was offered a new job this time, one built on respect and trust. As customers began to return, they noticed the new motto on the dealership's wall. *Luxury isn't what you drive, it's how you treat people. It became more than a slogan, it was a promise. Late one evening, Maya stood by the same glass doors where her journey began. The lights reflected her calm expression, not one of triumph, but of peace. She had faced discrimination, doubt, and betrayal, yet she had turned it into something powerful, something lasting. Her story reminded everyone watching that dignity and perseverance can rewrite even the deepest wrongs. And sometimes, the best comeback isn't loud, it's simply undeniable.